Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Kale from Cubo Gaming, and I'm here with some possibly dividing opinions on Scrap Mechanic Survival. So, don't get me wrong, I've played Scrap Mechanic Survival, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I even made some guide videos on the game, so. But even though I've played it a fair bit and, I had some fun, I think that the game has issues, or at least in my opinion. And I understand that the game is still in early access, but this is just how it stands for me at the moment. I mentioned I played a decent amount of the game with friends. Well, I'll be honest, I don't think that the game has a good way of retaining my interest. I have some ideas as to why this is, so I can only play it for so long before I'd lose interest because I don't think the game has purpose. Now, I know you're probably thinking, Caleb, most survival games don't have much purpose other than surviving. And what I'd say to that is Eco. Eco is a survival game that I played with my friends, and I played much longer than Scrap Mechanic. You start out with nothing and slowly build up your civilization and tech to ultimately be able to stop a meteor from destroying the Earth. Not to mention, you also balance the amount of waste you produce and trees you destroy to make sure you aren't creating your own doom. Now, I get it, these games aren't exactly similar, but in Eco, you build cars and machinery too. And you have some sort of goal, some sort of purpose to all the grinding and mining. Now, my issue with Scrap Mechanic is that when you first get into the game, everything is so interesting. The art style, the mysterious abandoned buildings, and the overrun world filled with bots. Yet, I never got a clue as to why any of this was there. Now, I'm sure they're working on some of the story aspects due to the game still being on early access, but as it stands, I just have no idea why I'm grinding, and for me personally, I need some underlying motive to let me know why I'm grinding. And, speaking of grinding, this is my second major issue with the survival mode. I find this game to be extremely grindy. I mean, when I wanted a spud gun, it took me more than 4 hours to get one, and that's not an exaggeration. Now, I'll say that I probably wasn't as prepped as I should have been with the crops, but it still took a lot of steps to get a basic spud gun. I think collecting the crates and exploring the abandoned areas was a really huge plus for me. That, it never got really boring, but it was the heavy investment of time to scrap for metal or converting that scrap into other things you needed. Maybe it's just me, it just didn't seem to pay off that much. The car building at the mechanic shop was really fun, and I actually think that that part of the game really shines, but that kind of leads me to my next issue, and I think that the mechanic shop is too much of a crutch for the survival aspect of the game. I mean, why go off and build a personal base when you can camp out in the mechanic shop the entire game? There really isn't any sense of paranoia. I mean, you get a bed, power, storage, and, crafting ability all in this one building, and there isn't any reason to leave. It took me and a couple friends a couple hours to get this small base, and it isn't that big or complex, yet I could easily just stayed at the mechanic shop, and it has 10 times the storage space. If you're gonna have building, I think that there needs to be a better sense of survival to push you to want to create a base to protect. And speaking of protecting, I also want to mention the farming. Now, I know the game revolves around farming, and, that's okay. I didn't necessarily mind the farming too much, and I think the waves to fight were pretty fun. But I think after the first couple crops, it gets kind of tedious. Not to mention when you try to get the higher level seeds from the storage buildings, you run to the tape bots, and without a spud gun, you're dead. And like I said before, it takes a while to get a spud gun. I don't know, to me, it just seems the game relies on farming too much. There isn't any personalized crafting system. Everything is done with the craft bots, and you have to pack your crops in order to even trade them in. And lastly, I want to mention the constant starving issue in the game. The first couple playthroughs, my friends and I were constantly starving. The crates at the start of the game helped, but later on, the crops weren't nearly enough food for us, and we ended up opting out to starve and respawn rather than survive. I think that's a major issue in a survival game. You should have the option to survive your entire playthrough, but you starve so fast that it's almost impossible to do that. Not to mention that you can't eat the honey or corn. Everything aside from the food you get from looting has a process in order for you to consume it. And, for me, that didn't really work. And if you stayed this far and listened to me trash on the game, I want to say that I don't think it's terrible. I actually think that it has massive potential. I think just at this point, I'm not too interested or even motivated to get into it that much. And I'll keep tabs on it, but as of right now, I don't think it's that good. And I think that's going to be it for this video. You leaving a like and subscribe is always appreciated. Be sure to check out some of our other videos and our Discord server linked below.